All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Sean here at Zyxel, and this is our monthly presentation introduction to Nebula. As we go through today, if you have any questions, feel free to send them in using chat or the Q&A as part of the Zoom interface. And today's presentation is just, for those newer partners out there um, who aren't familiar with Nebula already, today is just sort of a high-level overview of what Nebula offers and why you might want to use it. Or maybe it's for some of you who are older partners who have been managing things the traditional way and are just looking to learn about Nebula now. You've seen it there, but you haven't been paying attention to it. And now maybe you're thinking maybe it's the time to make the jump to the cloud. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Because we do get a lot of new people on these webinars, we'll just start with a very brief sort of introduction to Zyxel. So Zyxel has been making computer networking equipment for over 30 years. We got our start all the way back in 1989. We have over 100 million devices deployed out in the field, and we serve 150 different global markets. We have been in the United States since at least basically 1989, located in Anaheim, California. So Zyxel is part of the Zyxel group. So I am part of what's called Zyxel Networks. So Zyxel Networks would be what we call our channel business. So this is selling through distribution and VARs, system integrators, computer networking equipment, switches, security firewalls, wireless access points, things like that. We do have a sister company operating here in the United States called Zyxel Communications. So Zyxel Communications is um, is where our focus, at least in North America, has been for most of these last 30 years. And that is selling into the telco space. So selling products for internet service providers from tier one all the way down to tier three. So that includes things like central office equipment, CPE equipment, things like that. We've got a number of other different companies that are also part of the Zyxel group, only a few of which are on this slide. But one I will want to talk about here real quick is MitraStar. So MitraStar is our factory and manufacturing arm. So they are also based out of Taiwan. They have facilities in Taiwan, in China, and I believe they're soon going to be opening up some new facilities in Thailand as well. So that's where not all of our equipment, but most of our equipment is being manufactured by our sister company, MitraStar. So now let's start talking about Nebula. So what is or what was Nebula? So Nebula was the first cloud solution for SMB, or the first full stack cloud solution for SMB. So what does that mean? So basically it's taking the idea of managing your networking equipment and moving it up into the cloud. Um, Probably the most famous person in this space is Meraki, or Cisco Meraki as they are now known. Um, and that's basically who we saw and who inspired us. So all the way back in around 2014, we saw what Meraki was doing. We saw them get bought out by Cisco and said, hey, this is a great idea, cloud management. And unfortunately, at that time, anyone offering cloud networking solutions was either focused on just one specific product, mostly access points, or was entirely focused on the enterprise space with pricing to go along with it. So we saw what they were doing and said, hey, that's great. Um, we think this is something people would like in the SMB space, and try to create our own version of it at a price point that made sense for the SMB space. So we actually launched Nebula all the way back in 2016. So we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary of doing this. So we've been doing this a lot longer than anybody else in the SMB space. And basically, it covers all of the different Zyxel Networks category of products. So our routers, our switches, our security appliances, our access points, our LTE outdoor router, those can all be managed through Nebula by a single pane of glass. And the idea of using cloud management is to take all of these things that go into setting up, deploying, and managing your customers' networks and try to reduce or eliminate what you need to do. So you spend less money up front deploying the equipment, less time and effort configuring things, less time and effort managing your networks. So let's go through Nebula here and talk about some of the features you can find in Nebula. So one of the cool first ones here is you can completely set up and configure your network without having to take anything out of the box. Most Nebula products, and soon all Nebula products, are going to have a QR code on the outside of the box. You simply scan that QR code with our mobile app, assign the device to a customer in a customer's site, and you can do the full configuration of the device from that point on. So that way, when somebody goes out in the field, all they have to do is plug it in, make sure it has power and an Ethernet connection, and it will see that you want to manage it in the cloud. It will automatically put itself into cloud mode and download the configuration you've set for it in the Nebula cloud. There is nothing else you need to do on the hardware itself. You don't need to tell it to go into cloud mode. You don't need to point it at a server somewhere. Everything is done automatically for you. Nebula itself has got a number of different tools and wizards. So when you're setting up a new customer or a new site for an existing customer, we can help copy some of the existing settings. We've got a number of different wizards that will walk you through some of the basic configuration to get at least the basics up and running pretty much instantly. So to use Nebula, you need nothing other than Zyxel Nebula compatible hardware. You don't have to buy any sort of cloud keys or CNA devices to communicate with the Nebula equipment. You don't need to set up any software. You don't need to set up a server somewhere. The agent itself is built into all of the Nebula compatible hardware. And then the cloud management platform that is hosted by us through Amazon AWS. So nothing extra you need if you want to use Nebula. If you own some Nebula or some Zyxel equipment, chances are it's Nebula compatible and you can switch it into cloud mode right now for free. So the idea here is basically anywhere you have access to a web browser and an internet connection, you have access to your customers' networks. So you can provide proactive management and troubleshooting. So if your customer has an issue, no matter where you are, you can get in there and fix it for them. So some of the other features here in Nebula, built-in user management. So obviously you can use your own 802.1x server, Active Directory server, or we have a cloud-hosted database that you can use for built-in user management. So you can use that for WPA enterprise encryption authentication. You can use it for captive portal authentication, etc. So when it comes to doing guest networks, it's really easy to do with Zyxel Nebula. So to begin with, in order to be able to deploy a guest network, including a captive portal of some sort, all you need is our access points. Our access points can host the captive portal. They can do the captive portal grabbing things. We have the ability to do layer 2 isolation and VLANs. Um, and all of that's just done through the access point itself. The access point can also do its own natting. So you can put guests on their own subnet and have that natted without needing to deploy other Zyxel equipment elsewhere or rely on other stuff on your network. So if you've got a customer, they've got a gateway that was provided by the ISP or they bought years ago and they don't want to upgrade or change it, no problem. Simply deploy our access points and you can do captive portal. And we've got a lot of flexibility with how that works. You can just do a simple terms of service. They connect to the captive portal. They agree to follow certain rules. You give them internet access. You can have them log in with a username and password. You can generate passcodes that people use. You can have them use Facebook to log in. So a lot of flexibility with how that works with Zyxel's Nebula here. So with Nebula, all configuration changes are done what we call OTA, over the air. So at no point should you need to physically access the device or directly access the GUI in the device. Everything is done through nebula.zyxel.com. Simply log in, make your configuration changes, and those will automatically be pushed out to the appropriate devices. That also includes firmware updates. So on the wireless side of things, all of our wireless access points support what is essentially what we're calling here single click mesh. And I believe actually these days it's on by default. So basically the idea behind that is if your wireless access point loses connectivity, it will automatically put itself into mesh mode, make a wireless connection to another access point that you have that does still have wired access to be able to maintain that. It also makes it super easy to deploy a mesh network. And while mesh networks, have been super popular on the home side of things, they haven't been that popular on the business side, just due to quality of service issues, lack of bandwidth, etc. So that's something that Wi-Fi 7 is solving with 6 gigahertz radios and the ability to do MLO mesh. So all of our Wi-Fi 7 access points support MLO mesh, creating meshes across 2 or 3 radios simultaneously to give you that flexibility as far as whichever band has the best throughput at that time or the less amount of interference to keep things going for you. So all of our access points that are 90 series and up support WPA, WPA3 Enterprise. And we also support all the industry standards 802.11 K, and V. On the switch side of things, you virtually stack your switches so you can configure ports across multiple switches simultaneously. You don't have to go through and do configuration one switch at a time. And we give you a nice easy view here so you can see what's going on your switches. So very easy to see which Ethernet ports on the switch are currently plugged in, what speed that connection is, whether or not PoE power is currently being utilized. And give you a number of tools here to help troubleshoot your network if you're running into some user complaints, and the ability to visualize the traffic that's been going through your switches over time. So we've got a number of other features on the switches here as part of Nebula, just to help keep things running. Things like 802 1x authentication, the ability to use ACL rules, loop guard, etc. One of the nicer ones on here is DHCP guard. So basically, if you enable that, if somebody takes their own home router and plugs it into your Ethernet network at the office, it will recognize that somebody's trying to do their own DHCP and block that. So clients only have access to your authorized DHCP server. So when it comes to using Nebula, one of the first questions we get is how much does it cost? And the answer is Nebula itself is free. We do not charge anything to use Nebula. You can convert your existing devices over to it right now at no additional cost. Now, having said that, there are tiers that we offer, some optional licenses that unlock additional features, primarily aimed at those of you that are an MSP and trying to provide more proactive services. And we'll talk a little bit more about them in a little bit. But Nebula itself is free. There is no limit to the number of customers you can manage for free, no limit to the number of sites you can manage for free, no limit to the number of devices you can manage for free. And that's something that really sets us apart from our competition. Most of our higher end competition, you have to pay. And if you stop paying, you lose access to your devices. On the lower end of things, at our competition, if they still offer some level of free tier, and a lot of them have gotten away from it, generally that tier is limited to the number of devices or sites or customers that you can manage. Our free version is not. And it's been that way since we launched it almost 10 years ago. So you will see the term Nebula Flex bandied about. So I want to sort of explain what that is real quick. So when we originally launched Nebula, we did it the Meraki way, right? Or Cisco Meraki way, where if you wanted traditional management, you bought Cisco. If you wanted cloud management, you bought Meraki. So two different sets of hardware, and you bought based on how you were going to manage that. So we have gotten away from that. Everything now is what we call Nebula Flex. And so what Nebula Flex means is we've got one line of hardware, and it's your choice whether you want to manage it using our cloud or whether you want to manage it the traditional way with what we would call standalone, where you would directly access the device via either a web GUI or a command line interface to do your management. So by default, all of our products are in standalone mode out of the box. And if you'd like to manage them in the cloud, all you do is scan that QR code that's on the outside of the box or that's on the belly label of the product itself. You assign that device to a customer and a site. And the device, after a minute or two, will see that you now want to manage it in the cloud. It will automatically convert over to cloud mode and download the configuration from the cloud that you've set up for it based on that customer and site. If at any point you decide you no longer want to manage it in the cloud, maybe you're moving it from one customer to another customer, or you're moving it, you're doing a hardware swap or an upgrade. Really easy, go into Nebula, remove the device from your Nebula inventory, and the device will automatically reboot into standalone mode with the default configuration. So as I mentioned before, there are some optional licenses that you can buy for Nebula. So let's talk about those really quick. The free version of Nebula we call Base Pack. So if you see that term Base Pack, that just means the free version. Plus Pack and Pro Pack are the two main licenses that we offer. It unlocks some additional features. I'm not going to talk a lot about Plus Pack. It was something we launched specifically to try to compete with some of the lower end cloud solutions like Netgear. And what we've found is the vast majority of our customers, if you're not going to use the free version, you're going to jump straight to Pro. So I'm going to focus mostly on Pro. And these are done on a per customer basis, or what in Nebula is called an organization. So and then when you log into Nebula, you will set up each of your customers as their own org and then create sites underneath that. So if you want to upgrade to ProPack for one of your customers, you just buy licenses for every device that that customer has in their organization, and then you can upgrade to ProPack. So every device does need a license, and before you can convert to ProPack, because the conversion from free to Pro um, is being done at the org level. It's not a device level, even though it's a device license. It's done at the org level. So the org is either free, or the org is in Pro, or the org is in Plus. You can't mix and match different devices individually. The other license we have here is called the MSP pack, and this is a license for a user. So you buy this license, you assign it to one of your users, or admins, and that admin unlocks a bunch of extra features for that admin to use. So, you buy it for one or two of your admins, your main ones. You don't buy it for everybody. So let's talk really quickly about price. Pro Pack, $30 per device per year. MSP Pack, $99 per admin you want to have access to those features. So again, Pro Pack, you buy a license for every device in an organization. MSP Pack, you just buy it for whichever admins you want to have access to the MSP Pack features. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about those features here in just a minute. So just to understand how Nebula works in this structure is, whoever creates an organization in Nebula, they are the account owner. So the account owner will create organizations, and under those organizations are sites. So the way we recommend you do this is that each of your customers is their own organization, and then you set up sites underneath them. So that way it's easy as far as licensing goes to keep track of your different customers, because you'll have some customers probably using the free version, some customers using Pro, and maybe even one or two using Plus. So it just makes it easy to keep an eye on things. And again, if you want to convert to Plus or Pro Pack, every device in the organization needs the appropriate license, and then you can convert the org to Plus or Pro Pack. And then the MSP license is assigned to an admin account, and that unlocks some additional features here. So you can see we're highlighting here team management, cross-org maintenance, cross-org features. So giving you the ability here to make changes across multiple customers at the same time using templates or wizards, things like that. So when we look at our hardware itself, basically Nebula is in just about all of our business class products today. So we do have something called Nebula Flex Pro, and all Nebula Flex Pro means is it's your standard Nebula Flex, but it comes bundled with a 1-year Pro Pack license, which you can choose to use. So on our APs, anything that starts with NWA is Nebula Flex. Anything that starts with the letter W is Nebula Flex Pro. On our switches, if it starts with the numbers 19, it's Nebula Flex. Where everything else, basically the 13, 2000, and 3000 series, those are Nebula Flex Pro. And when it comes to our security appliances, basically anything you buy that comes bundled with UTM or Gold Pack features will also include a 1-year Pro Pack. Anything that's bought standalone with no bundled features will be Nebula Flex. So now let's start talking briefly about some of these features. Now you can find this full comparison and actually a more detailed comparison on our website, or just Google search to help find it. Just a tip, if you're Google searching, type in Zyxel Nebula, because there's a lot of different products out there called Nebula. So if you put in Zyxel Nebula and then what you're looking for, it'll turn up the results on our website, where otherwise you might get the Nebula learning platform or something like that instead. So you can find, like I said, a more detailed version of this chart there. If you want those details, you can also reach out to your salesperson and they can just send you a link to the data sheet or the comparison table PDFs if you want that. So basically, what's the same between the three versions? So all of them give you the ability to manage an unlimited number of customers, devices, and sites. All of them give you access to the core features of the products themselves. So you're able to manage SSIDs, WPA pre-shared keys, security features, et cetera, like that. All of them have what we call our zero-touch deployment, the ability to just plug in the device after you've scanned it and assigned it to a customer, and it'll automatically put itself into Nebula mode. The ability to push out and schedule firmware updates, access to our mobile app, um, the ability to have access to captive portal, et cetera, et cetera. So where we start seeing some differences is when it comes to the logs. So the free version of Nebula stores just 24 hours worth of logs in the cloud. ProPack gives you a full year worth of logs stored in the cloud. Now, if you are using the free version, you can always set up your own syslog server and have it export to the syslog server if you need to store more than 24 hours worth of logs. The next area where there's differences is when it comes to the number of admin accounts per organization. So each of your customers, again, is their own org, and each org in the free version can have up to 5 admin accounts assigned to it. Where ProPack, there's no limit to the number of admin accounts that can be assigned to an organization. And that's per org. So one customer can have 5 admins, another customer can have a different 5 admins, et cetera. It's not across all of them. And then we have that cloud-hosted user database I was talking about earlier. Free version of Nebula gives you 50 entries in it. ProPack, it's an unlimited number of entries in that. And of course, you can always still use your own Radius server for user authentication. You aren't forced to use our cloud authentication server. Some of the other differences here, ProPack gives you advanced firmware scheduling. So you can set up really granular firmware update schedules. So you can do it by class of device, individual devices with their own schedules, things like that. Advanced reporting tools. So you can set up in Nebula to automatically generate reports every week or every month, which tracks different functions in Nebula, which tracks different performance metrics of different devices in Nebula. You can have those automatically generated and emailed either to yourself or to your customer. And if you are emailing them to your customer, you can put in your own branding into that email so they see that it's coming from you. We have what's called an automatic topology view, and we'll show you that here, I think, in an upcoming slide. ProPack gives you audit logs where we track not only the logs for a year, but every configuration change and who made those changes to make it easier for you to track down, if something goes wrong, when was this changed and by who? The ability to do configuration backups and restores on the switches, access to our AI tools for IPTV and Wi-Fi health monitoring and troubleshooting, and advanced VPN configuration features, collaborative detection and response, stuff like that. So those are sort of the highlights of the differences here. So one of those features was the automatic topology view. And basically with Nebula here, we can automatically detect all the network devices and figure out which devices are plugged upstream or downstream of which other devices, and then fully map that out in Nebula. Again, it's a nice tool for troubleshooting, and you can actually click on the devices in the interface here and get access to certain settings to apply to them. The ability to use dynamic pre-shared key. So be aware, for those of you that don't know, Wi-Fi 7 is now requiring that MLO be on by default if you're using Wi-Fi 7 mode on your access points, and MLO mode requires you use WPA3. DPPSK does not work with WPA3. This is because when they went from WPA2 to WPA3, they eliminated how DPPSK works as a method to increase the quality of the security. Basically, the way DPPSK worked was not actually an intended use of WPA2. It was just something that people discovered as a really cool thing you could do by exploiting some flaws in WPA2. So WPA3 has eliminated those. So just be aware of that if you use DPPSK and you're using Wi-Fi 7 access points, you will need to put those access points into Wi-Fi 6 mode to continue to use DPPSK. And as mentioned, we have some AI or machine learning or whatever the buzzword is this week, tools in Nebula to help you monitor your wireless users and automatically adjust settings on your access points based on the performance of the connections from the client devices. And then on the switch side of things here, it unlocks some additional tools like the ability to automatically assign devices to a specific VLAN based on the first 6 digits of their MAC address. So that way, all of your, IP VoIP phones are going to probably be from one or two vendors. The first 6 digits of the MAC addresses will be consistent across those. So by that doing this, you can automatically plug in your phone and it will automatically put it on the VoIP VLAN for you, for instance. So some cool features there. And then on the security side of things, there's a number of tools to make it easier for you to set up VPNs, whether it's site-to-site VPNs between different Zyxel devices or doing remote access through the built-in software on people's phones or laptops or things like that, including the ability to convert one of our access points into a cloud-managed VPN appliance to make it super simple for people to be able to get online and connect back to the corporate network without needing to worry about configuring and touching the user's each individual device. And then Nebula itself ties into our Security Reporter, which is our cloud-hosted tool on the security side of things for generating reports for security management. So it makes it really easy to jump back and forth between Nebula and the Security Reporter sites. Excuse me. Um, so we're just about at the end here. So if you have any questions, start sending those in. But right now, what I've got on here is some of the most common answers to the most common questions we get. So again, when it comes to the cloud itself, we host that, we maintain that, and it is hosted on Amazon AWS. So one of the most reliable and prolific cloud hosters out there. So we have fantastic uptime for you. But obviously, there are from time to time, Amazon has some issues. Um, so what happens if Amazon goes down, or what happens if the fiber gets cut to my building? And the answer to that is all of your Nebula devices continue to work just fine. It's not like some of the other cloud hosted devices where if they can't authenticate against the cloud server after a certain period of times, they shut down or lock up. Not the case here. The devices will continue to run basically indefinitely without access to the cloud. You just can't make any configuration changes to them. And obviously the cloud can't store any logs. But once that connection gets restored, everything will resume automatically for you. There's basically unlimited scalability, so you can continue to grow and add customers and devices to Nebula, and it will automatically scale up for you to be able to handle those number of devices and users. Nebula absolutely can be used with PCI or HIPAA compliant networks. It is not an issue. And the reason for that is really simple. None of your customers' data touches our cloud. LAN traffic stays on the LAN. WAN traffic goes directly out to the internet. The only thing touching our cloud is configuration changes and log storage. So because of that, no issues whatsoever using this with a PCI or HIPAA compatible network. And because we are a global company and this is being sold in, 100 plus markets, depending on what country you're in, we comply with whatever the local laws are. So if you've got a customer that's got US sites and they've got sites in Europe, don't worry, we're fully GDPR compliant. Basically, if we're offering Nebula in that country, it complies with whatever the local rules are. So again, for instance, going to Europe. So for Europe, certain data can only be stored on European servers. AWS is a global offering. So if you're deploying in Europe, it will automatically comply and make sure only to use those European servers where it needs to by law or by regulation. And then another question we often get was, how do I know it's secure? How do I know people aren't sniffing the traffic? How do I know, it's not easy to hack those devices? So rather than try to build our own cloud protocols in-house and, just have to trust us that we've thought of everything. Instead, what we do is we use an industry standard uh, called NetConf, NETCONF. So it's an industry standard tool that's out there that we're using to encrypt our traffic and to handle the authentication of the devices to the cloud to make sure no one else has access to those devices or their configuration. So as a quick summary here for you, it's simple and easy to use. It scales up considerably here. It's going to save you time. It's going to make things easier for you. That's really easy to buy or sell because there's nothing extra you have to buy. You continue buying your existing Zyxel hardware, assuming it's our true business class hardware, and it's going to work with Nebula, no problem at all. So if this sounds interesting to you, you can access Nebula at any time just by going to nebula.zyxel.com. If you look at the bottom of the login page, so it'll take you to a splash page, you click get started, and then at the bottom, it'll ask you to log in. If you go to below that, there is a live demo button. Just click the live demo button. And we've got a number of different sites that are set up there that you can log into and play around with the Nebula interface without even needing to log in. So that's there for you. If you are one of our reseller partners, you are a member of our partner program. We also are running a 60-day demo kit deal right now, where we will send you a complete demo kit, access point, switch, security gateway, let you play with it for 60 days. And at the end of 60 days, you can either return it to us, or if you want to keep it, we'll sell it to you at a huge discounted price. So that's something you can work out by just talking to your salesperson. So depending on where you are in North America, your salesperson is going to be Andy, David, or Jacob. And if you're using somebody like Target or DNH as a distributor, you can also talk to your guy over there and they can help set that up for you as well. And with that, we are done with the presentation. So again, if you have any questions, send those in now using chat or Q&A. Otherwise, thanks for joining us. While we wait to see if someone sends something in, I will let you know. If you're one of our newer partners, we do have a YouTube channel. It is called Zyxel America channel. Most of our webinars are archived there within about 24 hours. So if you miss a webinar or you want to share something, it's easy to find it there. The YouTube site there also has video case studies, new product introductions, best practices videos. So check it out. And then, of course, you can always connect with us at LinkedIn at Zyxel US channel. So I am not seeing any questions coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and end today's webinar. Hope I see you at one of our future ones and have a good holidays. Thank you.